write that we Americans have vanquished evil governments in Germany, Japan, Russia, Iraq, and other far-off places. But you feature examples of evil in the United States. You profile the African slave traders, Isaac Franklin, John Armfield.
Ugh.
At one point, the richest guys in America.
In the world.
And we allowed it.
In the world.
But the American government, the American people
They allowed it. And it was a slave trade, okay, that went from Virginia down to New Orleans and then back up the Mississippi. So yes, the slave industry was the worst thing that ever happened in the United States.
The stats you write in the book are stunning. The New Orleans slave market was the largest in the world. I think this is a pretty stunning passage. It was searing when I read it. 1,000 slaves wait to be sold. The slaves are separated by gender and age. One by one, they climb atop a wooden box as buyers inspect them. Males are prodded, slapped, and then forced to jog across a gravel pit without shoes. Females are subjected to demeaning examinations to prove their fertility. Children watch in horror as their parents are sold to the highest bidder. More cargo arrives tomorrow. Slavery was at the very heart of the American economy. That's why it was so important to the South. That's the thesis of the 1619 Project.
Right.
Are you on the same side as them?
No.
Okay.
Because slavery was exclusively for the benefit of the aristocracy in the South. And the reason it wasn't outlawed was because the South would secede. And everybody knew that. These kooks that want to denigrate America, they're basically saying, okay, slavery built the country. That's not true. All right, that's not even close to being true. What is true is the legacy of slavery harms African Americans to this day. That is true. And I think we have tried now to rectify that mistake. My belief is we have tried to right the historical wrongs.
The Civil War was fought to protect slavery, yet
Right.
the statues to Confederate generals still stand. A big part of traditional values, Americans, whatever you want to call them, MAGA, we're going to bring the statues back. Bases named after Confederate generals. How do you square that?
I swear it like I want those names out there. I want people to see who these men were, because they're all different.
There's a difference in having the name out there than celebrating it, right? We wouldn't have
about celebrating.
Would we ever have Fort Forrest after Nathan Bedford Forrest?
So one of the worst people who ever lived in America was Nathan Bedford Forrest. We got a chapter on him, Confederate general, and he was the founder of the Ku Klux Klan. As evil as they come. Now, there's no justification for having a statue of Nathan Bedford Forrest. Robert E. Lee, a different story, okay? I'm not justifying what Lee did, but Lee believed that states' rights and his Virginia shouldn't be told what to do from the people across the river. And it wasn't that Lee was a slaver, enthusiastic, but he decided to do what he did. He was wrong.
But that's different.
Was he evil? No, in my opinion.
Slavery, unquestionably a force for bad in America. Lots of awful things came from it. American capitalism has been the single greatest thing to happen to the world and the advances because of it. And yet you put the robber barons next to the African slavers as American evil?
Sure. And this is fascinating. So we're taping this interview right down the street from where J.P. Morgan lived.
Yeah.
J.P. Morgan, the shrewdest, the smartest robber baron, bought up all these companies, paid his people nothing, got them in mines where they were getting crushed, got them in plants where they were being lit on fire. No working conditions, no safety, children, 8, 9. Wait, J.P. Morgan, okay? He's doing all this and he knows he's doing it.
Yeah, but he's not putting people in ovens and gas chambers.
Okay, he's not putting people in ovens. So what? He's evil. And then Rockefeller shows up. Rockefeller goes, we're going to need all this oil. Got to light these lamps. And here's what I'm going to do to make more money. Rockefeller Center right down the street. I'm going to not ship oil to certain parts of the country in the winter so the people can't heat their homes. And I'll do that for a month or two. Let them be chilly. And I'll jack the price up 5 times more than it used to be. Hey, these guys were the worst.
Okay, so we shouldn't have statues for Nathan Bedford Forrest, founder of the Ku Klux Klan. Should we have Rockefeller Center?
Remember, all of these robber barons gave enormous amount of money to charity. Carnegie Mellon, Vanderbilt.
Were they trying to buy redemption?
Exactly. They tried to buy their way into heaven.
Is there not a similarity to Jeff Bezos on his yacht and his $50 million wedding, while there are slaves literally in China making all the stuff that Amazon sells?
You have to stretch it there. But it's the same as the robber barons, because a handful of guys knew the country was changing again in the 1990s. They knew high tech was coming. And they made billions and billions of dollars. But I haven't seen the evil level. They're not nearly in the category of the robber barons.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.